Frequently asked questions on the interim guidelines for the Performance Management and Evaluation System, PMES, for teachers in school year 2024-2025. So this is the second video on the frequently asked questions about the interim guidelines. These are the results, the questions asked by majority of teachers during the national orientation, where they provided a link. So this explains and answers some of the frequently asked questions. Question number 1. What is the purpose of the issuance of the interim guidelines for the PMES of teachers? Answer. The issuance of the PMES for teachers in the interim shall, number 1, lift the suspension of the implementation of the performance management system for teachers for school year 2024-2025. There was a suspension last year, and these interim guidelines lifted the suspension. Second, the interim provide a simplified processes and requirements for the performance evaluation. So it is simplified. The requirements are simplified. The processes also are simplified. You will know later why is it called a simplified processes and requirements. Number 3, the interim guidelines complete the 3-year cycle of teacher performance assessment for DepEd Memorandum Number 8 Series of 2023, which covers all 37 PPST indicators. Question number 2. What is the timeline for implementing the performance management evaluation system? Answer. The interim guidelines for PMES for teachers shall be implemented starting the 4th quarter of school year 2024-2025. So it will start this 4th quarter of this current school year. Question number 3. What are the scheduled options for classroom observation? Answer. There shall be 2 scheduling options for the full period classroom observation. Option A, 2 full period classroom observations in 4th quarter with objectives, the classroom observable indicators distributed across observations. So if the teachers opted to have the 2 full period classroom observations, that means that the classroom observable indicators are distributed in these 2 classroom observations. The second option, option B, if the teachers wanted to have only 1 full period classroom observation in the 4th quarter, covering all objectives, classroom observable indicators. So single classroom observation, but the observable indicators, the classroom observable indicators, all objectives must be present in that 1 full period classroom observation. Question number 4. How do we determine and choose between the 2 classroom observations options for teachers? Answer. The scheduling options for the classroom observation shall be agreed upon by the teacher and the rater. Determining which of the options is feasible shall be the discretion of the teacher and the observer, taking into account the factors such as class schedules, number of teachers to be observed, and other relevant considerations. It is very clear that the options shall be determined at the discretion of the teacher and the observer. The principal, the school head, must have an agreement, or the master teacher must have an agreement if they are the observers to the teacher. So there must be a consent as to what is feasible, what should be agreed upon, determining which options is feasible based on relevant considerations. Question number 5. Does the reduction from 4 to 1 or 2 full period classroom observations apply to the following school years, to the next school years? Meaning, there will only be 1 or 2 full period classroom observations for the school year to come? Answer. The reduction of the required classroom observations from 4 to 1 or 2 shall only be applicable in school year 2024-2025. Separate guidelines shall be issued for the next 3-year cycle of PEMES for teachers. Question number 6. How will I be rated in Objective 8 and Objective 9 if I do not have learners with disabilities, giftedness, and talents? Objective 8, and learners in difficult circumstances. Objective 9. Answer. For classes and schools with no learners with disabilities, giftedness, and talent under Objective number 8, and learners in difficult circumstances, Objective 9, teachers shall integrate into the lesson plan for the classroom observation teaching strategies that could possibly address and respond to the learning needs of this type of learners. Integration of teaching strategies in the lesson plan must be highlighted and annotated. Question number 7. What will happen if the teacher does not meet the required classroom observable indicators? Answer. Teachers shall get the lowest rating in the rubric level. For example, for proficient teachers, the lowest rating in the classroom observation is 3, while for highly proficient, the lowest rating is 4. The lowest rating would mean not observed, not met indicators in the classroom observation. So if they do not meet the required classroom observable indicators, they will get the lowest rating. Number 8 question. What happens if my classroom observation is scheduled on a day when I am absent due to an emergency? Answer. The classroom observation must be rescheduled as soon as possible, ensuring it is within the fourth quarter timeline. Question number 9. If my lesson does not go as planned during the observation, can I request a redo? Answer. Classroom observation for purposes of performance evaluation cannot be redone. Cannot be. However, non-rated and formative classroom observations through short period and walkthrough can be conducted to address gaps identified during the full period rated classroom observation. Question number 10. What if my observer gives me a lower rating in the classroom observation than I expected? Can I appeal the score? Answer. You can discuss the rating with your observer during the post-observation conference for clarification, referring to the actual performance during the classroom observation as noted in the observation notes form. Final ratings are based on reasoned and consensual judgment among multiple observers if there are multiple observers. So we discuss the rating during the post-observation and you agreed because the final rating must be based on reason and consensus. Question number 11. If I receive different ratings from multiple observers, which one will be recorded? Answer. Observers conduct an inter-observer agreement exercise to finalize the rating. So, if there are multiple observers, these observers must conduct an inter-observer agreement where they will finalize the rating. Question number 12. If my school is affected by a natural disaster, how will my classroom observation be rescheduled? Answer. Schools may request for adjustment of the timeline with the school's division superintendent approval. On assessment of non-classroom observable objectives. Question number 13. Is the assessment of the non-classroom observable indicators done during the post-con? Or can the rater schedule a separate date as long as it's not during the year-end? The instruction states that the non-classroom observable indicators should be rated promptly. Answer. The non-classroom observable indicators assessment may be conducted during the post-conference or scheduled at any time within the fourth quarter as agreed upon by the rater and rating. However, the assessment of lesson plan for Objective 2, PPS Indicator 1.2.2 for Proficient Teacher can already be completed before the actual observation upon the teacher's submission of the lesson plan. On the submission of MOVs portfolio, question number 14. The effectivity of guidelines is starting fourth quarter. Can teachers show means of verification. Example, minutes of a consultative meeting with community stakeholders conducted in the previous quarters. Answer. For classroom observable indicators, classroom observation shall be conducted in the fourth quarter. For non-classroom observable indicators, any MOVs across quarters shall be valid and accepted. Question number 15. Do I need to prepare a portfolio with my MOVs for the computation of ratings? Answer. A physical portfolio for submission at the end of the school year shall not be required. Ulitin po natin. Shall not be required. However, teachers are encouraged to have their own repository of teaching, learning materials, documents to facilitate accessibility and resource sharing. No need to have the physical portfolio, but teachers must have the repository of teaching and learning materials, documents that they can use for the next school year or for resource sharing. Question number 16. How can I effectively document my progress for non-classroom observable objectives? Answer. Maintain a personal repository of teaching learning materials. Documents are not required in a physical portfolio but should be available when needed. Although the portfolio is not required, but of course, so that you can document your non-classroom observable indicators, it is also advisable that you have a personal repository of these materials. Question number 17. What are the acceptable MOVs for teachers who transferred from one school to another mid-school year? Who validates their MOVs? Answer. The acceptable MOVs are contained in Figure 7 and Figure 8 of DepEd Memorandum Number 17, Series of 2025. The assigned raters at the current school shall validate the MOVs presented for purposes of evaluation. Current school ng mga rater. Approval signatures from previous rater shall not be required. So, the one who will validate the MOVs presented is the rater of the current school. Question number 18. Should we submit physical or digital copies of MOVs? Are there specific formats we should follow? Is it in a PDF or scanned copies? Answer. Submission of portfolio shall not be required. Teachers shall only present to the rater any available relevant MOV from their daily teaching activities. Raters shall immediately evaluate and rate the MOVs presented, then return the document to the teacher. Physical or digital documents can be presented depending on its original format. So the MOVs accepted are either physical or digital documents. On the computation of rating, question number 19. What if I receive an unsatisfactory rating? What if this is conditional? Seldom itong nangyayari. However, if this happens, the question is how can I improve before the next evaluation? If he opted, let's say, 2 full classroom observation, dalawa. Answer, use feedback from your rater, attend mentoring and coaching sessions, and apply best teaching practices in the next evaluation. On the submission of IPCRF, question number 20. Will our 2 newly hired teachers assigned to our school just this January 2025 be required to submit IPCRF for this school year? Answer, yes. Per Civil Service Circular, Memorandum Circular number 6 series of 2012, personnel who have already met the required minimum rating period of 90 days in their current position shall be required to submit, to accomplish and submit the IPCRF. So take note, 90 days. Pag naka 90 days na siya in the fourth quarter, he or she is required to accomplish and submit the IPCRF. Question number 21. Are teachers on maternity leave for the entire duration of the fourth quarter required to accomplish the IPCRF? Answer, no teachers who are on maternity leave for the entire duration of the fourth quarter shall no longer be required to submit IPCRF. So they are not required to submit IPCRF. For purposes of performance-based benefits, teachers who are on approved leave of absence, such as maternity leave for the entire period of the fourth quarter, shall use their performance commitment and ratings obtained in the immediate preceding rating period. So for more questions or clarifications, you may chat your comment in this video. Thank you so much and mabuhay!